Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? This time we're tackling Amazon's Q4 2024 earnings report, which just dropped. And let me tell you, there is a lot of tea to unpack.
Definitely a lot of interesting stuff in there.
It's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah,
You think you know what Amazon's going to do, but they always seem to have something up their sleeve.
right. Like how they just keep growing and growing, even with all the economic uncertainty going on.
It's like they're immune to gravity or something.
Well, the headlines definitely scream success. What's amazing is how they managed to pull this off in the middle of, all that inflation worry and people talking about a possible recession. They basically just shrugged it off and posted a 10% year-over-year increase in net sales for Q4.
10%. Try $187.8 billion. That's with a B.
It is, yeah. And for the whole year, they hit $638 billion, an 11% jump.
Okay, seriously, how are they doing this? Like, what's the magic formula?
It's not magic, but it's pretty impressive. One key thing is their operating income, which basically tells us how much profit they're making from their core business operations before things like taxes get factored in. So their operating income more than doubled this past quarter, hit $21.2 billion, which is huge GE compared to the $13.2 billion they had last year.
All right, break that down for me. Why is doubling their operating income such a big deal?
Think of it like this. Imagine you're running a lemonade stand, right? Your operating income is basically the money you make from selling the lemonade minus the cost of the lemons, the sugar, the cups, everything. So if you double that, it means you've either sold a ton more lemonade or you've figured out how to make each cup way cheaper.
Gotcha. So Amazon is either selling way more stuff,
Okay.
or they've become super efficient in how they run things, or maybe both.
Exactly. It shows they're really good at, being efficient, getting the most out of every sale. And don't forget about cash flow. You can think of it like a company's lifeblood, that money constantly flowing in and out. Amazon's operating cash flow for the past year, it went up by a crazy 36%, reaching $115.9 billion.
Whoa. Okay. $115.9 billion. I can't even imagine that much money. What do they even yo with that much cash?
Well, they use it to keep growing, right? Investing in stuff like expanding their network of warehouses so they can get those packages to us even faster. They're developing groundbreaking new tech like we see with AWS. And get this, they're even moving to completely new markets.
Now you're talking. New markets. Tell me more. I love it when Amazon shakes things up.
Sure, sure. But first, let's look at how they're doing in their different segments. North America, where their core e-commerce business is, had a solid 10% growth in both Q4 and for the entire year. Reached $115.6 billion for Q4 and $387.5 billion total for the year. Internationally, even with those crazy currency exchange rates messing things up a little, they still managed 8% growth in Q4 and 9% for the full year. And actually, if you take out those currency swings, the growth was even stronger.
So basically, they're crushing it in North America, holding their own internationally despite some economic headwinds. And of course, we can't forget about AWS, the cloud computing giant everyone's been talking about. What's the latest there?
AWS is definitely the star of the show. Their revenue went up by a wild 19% for both Q4 and the whole year, hit $28.8 billion for the quarter and $107.6 billion total. This goes way beyond just renting out server space. They're offering a whole bunch of cloud services like helping companies manage their data and providing tools to build those crazy AI applications. You could say that AWS is becoming the foundation for how more and more businesses are building their future.
It's like they're not just playing in the cloud, they are the cloud.
Yeah, pretty much. But with all this success, what's the leadership team thinking, right?
What are they going to do next?
Well, if you read CEO Andy Jassy's comments in the press release, it's pretty interesting. He really emphasized Amazon's commitment to innovation, especially in AWS. They're thinking long-term, investing heavily in cutting-edge technologies that might not pay off right away, but will build, a foundation for the future.
So it's not just about selling stuff today, it's about shaping how we'll live and work and play tomorrow.
Exactly. And Jassy actually said, and this is a direct quote, "These benefits are often realized by customers and the business several months down the road, but these are substantial enablers in this emerging technology environment, and we're excited to see what customers build."
I love that. It's like they're building the tools and then stepping back to see what amazing things people create with them. But let's get back to us regular folks for a second. What does all this mean for the average online shopper like you and me?
Well, you've probably noticed how Amazon just keeps getting faster with their deliveries.
Yeah, it's almost scary how fast they are.
They actually hit their fastest ever Prime delivery speeds in 2024. Over 65% more items were delivered same day or overnight here in the US compared to last year.
It's like they have teleportation figured out. But okay, let's talk holiday shopping. Didn't I hear it was a record-breaking season for Amazon?
You did, especially for all those independent sellers using their platform. Their Black Friday week and Cyber Monday events were the biggest ever, which shows that people are still shopping online like crazy, even with all the economic uncertainty.
So they're dominating the holidays, delivering packages at warp speed, and all this makes you wonder what's next. What about the entertainment side of things? I know they've been doing more and more in that area.
That's where things get really interesting. We don't have all the details yet, but their movie Red One, it pulled in a huge 50 million viewers worldwide on Prime Video in just 4 days.
Hold up, 50 million viewers in 4 days. That's blockbuster numbers. And what about their sports stuff? Any news on Thursday Night Football?
Thursday Night Football on Prime Video also had a big year, with viewership up 11%, peaked at 24.7 million viewers during the wild card playoff game.
Okay, so they're pulling in millions for movies and football on their streaming service. Is this a sign of how we're all going to be entertained in the future? Are we all destined to become couch potatoes glued to Amazon Prime?
Maybe. But before we go there, we got to dive into all the innovations coming out of AWS.
Yes, the tech stuff. There's always a ton to talk about there. Lead the way.
Welcome back. Are you ready to dig even deeper into Amazon's financial performance? We've seen the big picture, but sometimes, the real story's hidden in the details.
I'm all about those juicy details, like finding hidden treasure in a mountain of data. Right. So let's get our shovels out and start digging into those financial statements.
All right, let's start with the income statement. Amazon's net sales for the quarter. They jumped to an incredible $187.8 billion, a 10% increase from last year. And if you take out the effect of those exchange rate changes, it's even more impressive, like an 11% jump.
So they're raking in the cash, but how much of that revenue actually turns into profit? That's what I want to know.
Good question. That's where we look at their operating income. Right. Remember, tells us how efficiently they're running their core businesses. And, well, let me tell you, Amazon is a well-oiled profit machine. Their operating income more than doubled in Q4. It went up to $21.2 billion compared to $13.2 billion last year.
Wow, that's a big jump in profitability. What's their secret? Did they find a money tree somewhere?
I wish. No, it's not magic. It's a bunch of smart strategies they're using. For one thing, they've been super focused on operational efficiency, like finding ways to do more with less. They're always streamlining their processes, optimizing their fulfillment network, and squeezing more value out of their infrastructure so they can handle a huge increase in sales volume without a big increase in costs.
So they're basically the masters of logistics, making sure everything runs smoothly from the warehouse to my doorstep.
Exactly. And another thing is, remember those higher margin segments we were talking about, like AWS? They're really pulling their weight. AWS is a real cash cow, and its growth is fueling a big part of Amazon's profit surge.
AWS, AWS, AWS. Seems like everything's coming up cloud for them. But what about their bottom line? What's happening with their net income?
Well, it followed the same trend, went up to a crazy $20 billion from $10.6 billion in Q4 of the previous year, which means it translates to $1.86 per diluted share, a pretty significant jump from the $1 per diluted share they reported a year ago.
Wow. That's going to make investors happy. All right, we've covered the income statement. Now let's look at the balance sheet. What kind of financial foundation are we talking about here?
Amazon's balance sheet is strong, really strong. Shows how financially sound they are. Their cash and cash equivalents at the end of Q4, a big $78.8 billion, and their total assets, a massive $624.9 billion.
I don't even know what to say. It's more than the entire GDP of a lot of countries.
Yeah.
But hey, big assets usually mean big liabilities too, right? What's the situation there?
Of course. Every business has its obligations. Their total liabilities came in at $338.9 billion. That includes short-term liabilities like accounts payable and, long-term debt.
Okay, so it looks like they have a healthy balance between assets and liabilities.
Yeah.
But what about the cash flow? That's got to be important for any company's long-term health.
You're absolutely right. Cash flow is like the lifeblood of any business. And Amazon's cash flow, it's like a raging river. Their operating cash flow for the past 12 months went up by a crazy 36%, reaching $115.9 billion.
Wow. That's a lot of cash coming in. What are they doing with all this cash? Are they swimming in it like Scrooge McDuck?
No, they're not just hoarding it. They're investing it strategically to fuel their future growth, like putting resources into expanding their fulfillment network, developing those cutting-edge technologies in AWS we talked about, and even exploring new markets and opportunities.
They're not just playing the game, they're building the entire playing field. That's what I like to see. But, we've talked a lot about the numbers. What about the people behind those numbers? What's the vibe like among Amazon employees?
That's an interesting question. While we don't know exactly how employees are feeling, we can get some clues from, things like their recognition as one of Fortune's world's most admired companies. Seems like they're doing something right when it comes to creating a positive work environment.
So it's not just about the money, it's also about creating a company culture that people actually want to be a part of. That makes sense. All right, so we've gone through the income statement, the balance sheet, and marveled at their cash flow. What's the big takeaway from all these numbers?
I think the main thing is that Amazon is in a very strong financial position. They're making tons of money, their profitability is growing incredibly fast, and their cash flow is, well, overflowing. This gives them the resources to keep investing in innovation, expansion, and maybe even some surprises down the line.
They're always thinking a few steps ahead, which is impressive. But beyond just the numbers, what are the key takeaways for people watching, like investors or industry experts? What can we learn from Amazon's success?
One of the biggest lessons, I think, is that Amazon is really good at playing the long game. They're not afraid to take risks, even if they don't see immediate results. They understand that real innovation takes patience and a willingness to invest in the future, even when it's uncertain.
That's a good lesson for anyone, not just in business. Sometimes you got to take a leap of faith and trust that it'll pay off in the end. And we can't forget about Amazon's constant drive for innovation. They're always looking for what's next, pushing boundaries in e-commerce, cloud computing, AI, and now even entertainment and healthcare.
Exactly. They're not just competing, they're reinventing. And they're not just following trends, they're creating them.
And don't forget, their laser focus on making things better for the customer. They're obsessed with making things easier, faster, and more personalized for us shoppers. From one-click ordering to same-day delivery, they're raising the bar for everyone.
Yeah, they're setting a new standard, but they're also thinking about more than just convenience and having lots of choices. They're focusing more on sustainability, ethical sourcing, and making sure their employees are treated well. They get that customers care about those things too.
It's like they're trying to build an empire that's not just profitable, but also responsible and ethical. It's a bold vision, and it seems to be working. So we've covered a lot about Amazon's financial performance in this deep dive, but there's still so much more to explore. Are you ready to dive into the specifics of their different businesses and their strategic plans?
Absolutely. In part 3 of our deep dive, we'll look closer at the different parts of Amazon's huge empire. We'll talk about the amazing growth of AWS, the evolution of their e-commerce platform, and their exciting moves into new areas like healthcare and entertainment. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. It's time for the final leg of our Amazon deep dive. We've crunched the numbers, explored their financial picture, and now it's time to zoom in on those different businesses that make up their empire. I'm ready to see what makes them tick.
Yeah, it's like we're exploring different worlds within Amazon's massive, ever-expanding universe.
Exactly. We already touched on AWS and its crazy growth, but let's really get into the nitty-gritty. What's fueling this cloud computing powerhouse?
Well, AWS has gone way beyond just providing server space, right? They offer a whole bunch of cloud services that basically cover every need a business could have.
Like what kind of services?
We're talking about everything from managing huge databases and analyzing complex data to, AI and machine learning stuff. It's like a one-stop shop for businesses in the digital age. And as we saw in those earnings, this approach is working really well. Their revenue jumped a crazy 19% in Q4, reaching $28.8 billion.
So they're not just riding the cloud wave, they're the ones making the waves.
Exactly. But what sets them apart from the competition? Well, a couple of things. First, they were early to the cloud game. They got in early and built a strong base of loyal customers before a lot of people even understood how powerful the cloud could be.
It's like they got in on the ground floor of the digital revolution.
Right. And second, they never stop innovating. They're always expanding their offerings, trying to meet the changing needs of businesses. Remember those innovations we talked about, like the Trainium 2 AI chip and Amazon Nova?
Yeah, those were pretty impressive.
Those are great examples of how AWS stays ahead of the curve. They're figuring out what businesses will need before those businesses even know it.
It's like they have a secret crystal ball showing them the future of tech. Okay, but let's talk about Amazon's roots, their bread and butter.
Yeah.
E-commerce. Are they still the kings of online retail?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Their North America segment, which is mainly their e-commerce operation, showed really steady growth. Sales went up 10% in Q4 to $115.6 billion.
That's insane.
And remember those crazy fast Prime delivery speeds we were talking about?
Yeah, I'm still amazed by that. It's like magic.
That shows how much they care about the customer experience.
I'm sure. But are they happy with just dominating e-commerce and cloud computing? Or are they setting their sights on even bigger things?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Amazon's always looking for new ways to grow and shake things up. They're not satisfied with just one or two industries. They're moving into new areas like healthcare and entertainment. We saw a little bit of their Hollywood dreams with that Red One movie on Prime Video.
Right, and let's not forget about their sports venture with Thursday Night Football. They had some pretty impressive numbers this year.
Yeah, for sure. It's clear they're serious about these new ventures, and their healthcare initiatives are no joke either. They launched Amazon Pharmacy, they're delivering prescriptions right to your door, and they're even looking into telehealth solutions.
Telehealth, like seeing your doctor online.
Exactly. And on the entertainment side, they're producing their own movies and TV shows, they're getting exclusive rights to live sports, and they're building a streaming service that could rival Netflix and Disney.
It's like they're playing this high-stakes game, getting ready to dominate the future of entertainment, healthcare, who knows what else. But what does it all mean for us regular people? How is this all going to affect our lives?
That's the big question, isn't it? Amazon's already a big part of our lives, right? It affects how we shop, how we entertain ourselves, even how we get healthcare. And as they keep growing and innovating, it's only going to become a bigger part of our lives.
That's kind of exciting, but also a little scary.
Yeah, it's both. We can expect even faster deliveries, a wider selection of everything, and even more personalized experiences tailored just for us.
So they're basically building a world where everything we want is at our fingertips.
Yeah, pretty much. But there are also concerns, right, about their power, the effect on competition, what it means for our privacy.
Yeah, those are all important things to think about.
It's complicated, and there are no easy answers. It's important for regulators and everyone to find the right balance between encouraging innovation and making sure consumers are protected.
Well, we've covered a lot in this deep dive into Amazon's Q4 2024 earnings. It's clear they're a company to watch.
Yeah.
They're not just adapting to the changing world, they're shaping it.
For sure. Their story shows the power of innovation, taking care of the customer, and always striving to be better. And this is just the beginning. As they keep pushing the boundaries, Amazon's going to keep captivating us, challenging us, and inspiring us.
It's been amazing exploring the world of Amazon. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure. And remember, knowledge is power. Understanding the things that shape our world is the first step to building a better future.